Okay, hello everyone. Just let me get the chat up, let me check what's going on here. I've got a little slideshow playing in the background for you guys to enjoy while that's happening. LVK, great to see you. Could you just let me know if the sound is okay for you guys? Can you guys hear me okay? Is everything loud and clear? Just let me know. I've been having some issues with my audio lately. I've been trying to set up the microphone to be a lot clearer, but I'm not sure if I've got it right. So just let me know, guys. Go. Let me just quickly check something here. How are we all doing? Like I said, we'll let the people just fill in for a little bit while I sort out this audio. You guys just let me know if you can hear me or not in the chat. That'd be much appreciated. Sounds good, excellent. All right, because I got a message then quickly saying my audio stream's bitrate is currently 0. And we recommend 128. But I don't remember knocking that down. But you guys can hear me just fine, yeah? Fantastic, that's good to know. Alright guys, I've got a bit of a show for you today, a bit of a short presentation, should I say. And it'll be on the Selk'nam tribe of South America, of Chile and Ecuador, and how basically they went extinct through genocide. A brief history on the tribe, and also the rituals that they would do to imitate demon spirits, and the costumes they would wear, which are very clown-like, as per usual. So I'll have a quick presentation about that today, then I think I'll do a quick book reading as well, to show you guys where I'm currently up to, and what I've been focusing on within that. But like I said, guys, I'm going to let people come in. We've got 18 people here right now, that's great. I don't think my internet's doing too well today, guys, so I'm sorry if it's a bit jittery. But like I said, I'm not on camera right now anyway, so that might not be an issue. I've reorganized everything on OBS streaming, the software I use. Today I've started a brand new one. I'm hoping everything is pretty smooth. I'll switch to the webcam here now. There you go, you guys can see me. I hope this isn't too jittery. It looks like from my end it's a little bit lagging. For you guys, I hope the image is nice and clear at least. My voice is what matters, not the way I look, so as long as that's clear, I'm happy. So we've been going for 5 minutes. I think it's a good time to quickly jump into this soon. Chat's filling up. Drunk Wedding Photographer, great to see you. Joshua, aloha, thanks for being here. Jeremiah, yep, thanks for being here. E. Joyce, thank you. And Quinton V. Nice to see you, Quinton. And yeah, thanks again for your message today and sharing some information with me. I appreciate that. Right, guys. 22 people in here right now. Let's start this presentation. I might as well get this straight into it. Jeremiah says the video is laggy, but the sound is good. That's fine for me. I'm not bothered about a laggy video, as long as the sound is all clear. Right, brilliant. So I'm going to switch that back to screen share. And I'm going to show you guys just a few things I've been looking at. I'm actually on Telegram. It's like a messenger app type thing with groups on there as well. And someone sent me a message on there. They found me and started telling me they found my videos through a post on 4chan. And while scrolling through this very toxic thread on 4chan about DMT and people taking DMT and the trips and the experiences they had, I found a few images of these things just spotted about here and there among other stuff. And I recognize this. I do believe Conspiracy Auras kind of mentioned these in his earlier videos years ago. But I haven't actually talked about them on any of my videos. I figured for posterity, it's definitely worth bringing up. I remember him sharing images like this black and white one you see here to the right of the screen. And I never clocked that these would actually be colours that they were wearing. I always assumed it was just black and white, you know. So this person here, this author, wrote this book about the lost tribes of Tierra del Fuego, the Selk'nam Yamana, and Coesca people. And as you can see, he's got this black and white striped motif going on with a triangle-shaped, pyramid-shaped cone head thing. And these are to represent ancestor demon spirits, funnily enough. But again, I never assumed when looking at these initially that they were supposed to be red and white. And this to me is very similar to the things I was talking about from the Aborigine tribes in my last show. If I can get, it's the Wand Genas. And they're often depicted as well as having, you know, red or white skin with red or white dots whenever they were represented as well. And I figured, you know, the similarity there is uncanny because the distance between these two people is ridiculous. If we get these Wanginas up, yeah, so they're often depicted, you know, having this polka dot skin, this dotted patterned skin, and having long, thin, serpent-like bodies as well. Here's a good example of the polka dot skin in this one in particular. If it can load. It's going to take a while, guys, because my internet, like I said, is being demanded quite heavily. But as you can see here, this one in the top left, for example, if you look closely at the screen, it's red and white patterned outfits, which look just like the outfit of a clown, which I'm still blown away by how on the nose this one is. But you can see here, this outfit from Australian tribes, you know, we're talking 8,000 to 9,000 mile difference here across the Pacific at least. Look very similar to what these people were wearing here, you know, to represent the same entities. I believe all the entities are representing are pretty much just the same thing. It's just either disembodied spirits of Nephilim beings, or they're trying to venerate the physical attributes these beings had when they were alive still. And I think you can go to every continent around the world and find the same thing, you know, the same thing in African cultures and their ancestral worship and the garb they were. It's very, very similar. These are a good example. The Agunguns and the outfits they wear to represent their literal ancestry are very similar. You know, these cone-headed creatures with a patterned, multicolored body. You see quite a lot of this hair or fur motif being added through straw, which are supposed to wave around and flow when they dance and move. And someone pointed out to me, you know, and I think it's an astute observation, that this is to mimic sound and frequency and waves to give them an ethereal, bodiless-like look while they're spinning around in circles and all these threads are flailing around in the air, you know, at speeds. But again, we see the same rituals with the same garb being carried out to venerate ancestral spirits just everywhere, all over the earth, you know. I mean, I have a map here of, you know, Tierra del Fuego is right down here at the very tip of Argentina, right at the bottom, you know, at the end of the world, you could say. And then, obviously, right across the Pacific in Australia over here, we have similar looking entities in the western provinces of Australia, also looking the same with the red skin and the white dot patterns. And then all the way into the continent of Africa here, just in every single country, practically, they have their own ancestral spirit worship within Africa. You know, they have their own images as well. And then in Europe, they have the Wildermen, who also dress in very similar ways. And the conehead motif is another very common one we find with the Wildermen. Where I've shown many images over the years of these. And it's, you know, the vast distances between these is just ridiculous for it to be a coincidence. And let alone the fact that, you know, this Tierra del Fuego imagery here, these things we see are not at all different or dissimilar from what we see from the Hopi tribes as well, and their Pueblo clown here, if it wants to load again. So they have their own black and white entity, with these two-pronged horns at the top. A motif you'll find in the Tierra del Fuego's representations, and they believe this thing is a sacred clown, and they consider this of the utmost importance for the workings of their society, to have this entity in their rituals. But it's I think, like I said, we look at the map, the distances again for this. Here's the Hopi Reservation in Arizona, this tiny little red square here. Then thousands of miles away, right at the very tip, we have a tribe here doing the same thing and dressing in the same way to represent their own ancestor spirits. And I cannot believe in coincidences when it comes to these things. So let's just dive deep into the history of these, and let's go a bit deeper into what we're looking at here. So you can find articles showing these people and the way they dress. So this one says the Selk'nam. Oops, sorry, clicked there by accident. Let's go back. Quite terrifying, aren't they? But he says here the Selk'nam, a Stone Age hunting culture, inhabited the Tierra del Fuego area of southern Argentina and Chile for 7,000 years. And I don't know where they pull these numbers from. I think they're just making it up, to be honest. But during those times, the tribes lived nomadically and in tune with the land, hunting, gathering, and fishing. The Selk'nam had no chiefs, but were instead led by wise men or fathers of the world who were believed to possess spiritual power over people, weather, and events. The tribe's most sacred ceremony was the coming of age, or the Hain. Adult male members of the tribe would be painted in red, black, and white paint, don in fur, down, and bark costumes, impersonating much feared spirits. Over a period of days or weeks, they would conduct a complex initiation to transition boys into manhood. One of the last such ceremonies was performed in 1920 and recorded by the missionary Martin Gazinde. Again, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. When Gazinde was ordained as a priest in Germany in 1911, he hoped to travel to New Guinea to work a missionary among the exotic tribes. Instead, his superior sent him to Chile to teach the German school in Santiago. Within a few years, however, he found his calling in Chile's Museum of Ethnology and Anthropology, carrying out expeditions in Tierra del Fuego in the far south of Chile and Argentina. Gazindi first went to the Isla de Grande Tierra del Fuego. Let me say that again, see if I can get it right. Isla Grande de Tierra del Fuego in December of 1918, filled with, in his own words, indescribable enthusiasm and youthful dreams of an encounter with an archaic tribe. Gazinde's hunting photographs of the Selk'nam, Yamana, and Coescar people present a way of life that was already on the brink of extinction when he visited the region in 1918 to 1924, and has since ceased to exist. So these people aren't around anymore. What we have from these old photos from 100 years ago now, 1920s, these are 100 years old, these photos, and these people do not practice this or exist anymore or dress in this way. So we're getting a glimpse into the last remnants of a tribe who have a specific form of ancestor worship, which is ancient. And what they are representing in the things they wear are a specific entity they are very well aware of, either in spiritual form that contacts them or they experienced and met in physical form at one point. And note the fractaled nature of the beings they're trying to represent. The beings of form and pattern and line. And these are the much feared spirits of the underworld, led by a particular goddess, which we'll get into in a minute. But look at these bizarre forms. Look at the shapes of these. Look at the head. I think people, point to these as cone-shaped ways of channeling ether energy for magical powers, but I think they're more trying to create, let's say, the tail of a serpent on the head, or some kind of elongated snake-like, body-like feature, tentacle-like, should we say, or the tail of a snake-like. I think that's more like what they're going for. They're trying to stretch out the body form to be more snake-like, and hence the body paint and the patterns within are trying to be like serpent skin. Here's one with the two horns at the top. which look not dissimilar from, let's say, the eyes of insects who have this pattern quite often. This is maybe an over-exaggerated look of, let's say, a praying mantis's head. But the black and white fractal lines in this are extremely similar to the Hopi Kachina and the clown, or the Pueblo clown, should we say, here. It's echoes of the same type of entity, you know. I mean, look at this thing. How is this much different, let's say, from this thing here? No, I don't think so. These two tribes, and let's look at the map again, separated by a huge distance, a continent's worth of distance. You know, here's the tip of Argentina. If I zoom out a bit more so I can get them both on the same. You know, here's the tip of Argentina, and in the Arizona states, that little red blotch you see there is the Hopi Reservation. That is a vast distance. Like an absolute vast distance directions. Let's go. I just want to see the actual distance here, you know. Let's get it. Let's Google Maps this. Let's see how long it takes to get there. We'll go to the province of Argentina. If it wants to load. It doesn't even want to load the distance. It's not letting me do it. I'm trying to click here to make it happen, and it's not happening. I'm going to predict it's roughly about 8,000 miles away. It may be less, it may be more, but roughly, we're talking distances here which separate cultures dramatically. And again, like I said, the Pueblo clown looks just like this particular representation of an entity that these people of the Tierra del Fuego are representing, and it's always these black and white fractal lines. Now look at the polka dot effect on this one. I think this polka dot effect, again, is very similar to the entities we saw for the Wanjinas here. And they even have the half-white body. You can see the top of the body for these representations, which are paintings of like cave representations of them. They have this white shoulder, white chest effect before the red and white polka dot pattern takes place. It's quite clear in this top line here, you can see them. And again, in this lost tribe of the Tierra del Fuego, some of them do that. The top part is white before the polka dot pattern begins. You know, and these Wanjinas were said to be entities that control the weather and make it rain, specifically. And they were entities that were left behind by the rainbow serpent gods to rule over mankind, basically, and be there as caretakers and creators of the earth. They died, and when they died, so they had physical bodies, and they, like mortals, they did die. So they weren't gods, truly. They were some kind of being on the earth. When they did die, they went into these caves and did self-portraits of themselves before dying. You know, here they are with the rainbow serpent in this representation, leaving to the skies, and they are left behind on the earth, you know. These are the Nephilim, and they look just like clowns in these representations, with clown outfits as well, which is shocking to me. And then on this, you know, this end of the world, another end of the world tribe, the Tierra del Fuego have a similar looking vibe to their representations of demonic entities. And we know these Nephilim Wanjina, when they died, became demons, the disembodied spirits. So it's just, the connections are kind of scary. I'm looking at this for so long now, and it's getting a bit out of hand. I mean, look at this thing. This is terrifying. But they are clearly haunted by something or in touch with something, to the point where they also visually see what these things look like. And these are black and white photos, but they are wearing red and white paint here. Okay, this is red and white paint. And they go for the polka dot patterns, and polka dot on red and white is such a common clown outfit. So some foul play was at work here. These patterns from these ancient tribes were stolen by European Freemasons, I assume. And these aesthetic choices in design for outfits were incorporated when they invented a clown, a thing that we call clowns. Someone invented that. It was Charles Dibdin specifically who invented the modern image of the clown, and he is a Freemason. He wrote Harlequins dedicated to Freemasonry, to be performed by Freemasons, fully created by Freemasons, all the costume designs and everything. And this person who was heavily steeped in the occult did a costume change design on the stock character of the clown from the Commedia dell'arte movement and the Harlequinades, and he invented the image of a clown we know today, which was worn by Joseph Grimaldi and made popular by Joseph Grimaldi. So funnily enough, Tierra del Fuego is known in Spanish as the Land of Fire, or Fireland in English. I don't know. There's something about that, let's just bear that in mind. So we go down here and it gives them history of the area and the colonization of the area. But there's one section quickly on, I can get to it, the mythology, or whatever, it's gone. The mythology of the Selk'nam people in particular. So the Selk'nam people, also known as the Onawa or the Honor people, are the indigenous people of the Patagonian region of southern Argentina and Chile, including the Tierra del Fuego Islands. They're believed to have originated as people on the mainland thousands of years ago, migrated by canoes across the Strait of Magellan towards this territory. So they came from the north and settled south on this coastal area and these archipelagos. And then it basically, from this, we can read that the population was decimated by Western travelers taking over, basically, in Christian missions. Not just Christian missions, but the people settling there and making cattle farms and sheep farms and things like that. And I find it interesting, I can't find it here right now, but if I can summarize for you, basically these people, these hunters, these gatherers would be killing the sheep of these farmers, thinking they were just fair game. They were just like there to hunt, not really understanding concepts of property ownership. And as a result, the farmers and the shepherds who were having their sheep murdered and eaten and killed by these tribes hired people to kill them because they were like a nuisance, not human beings in the eyes of these farmers. They were more of like a vermin. And they hired headhunters to go out and murder the Selk'nam people and bring back the ears of evidence that they've done so in order to stop them from killing their sheep. And a lot of this practice killed them, decimated them, destroyed them, basically. And movements were created by warring farmers and these people to just genocide the people. And that's what happened. And they're practically either integrated or gone now. They don't exist. Which is just a horrifically sad story. And it wasn't even that long ago, when this type of thing started to happen. So you can't help but have sympathy for these people, I've been researching a lot about these tribes of America, and what happened to them is truly horrific. People had no regard for their well-being or life, valued their life in any respect. Maybe 100, 150 years ago, 200 years ago, not at all. Anyway, they have a religion. It's a complex system of beliefs. It's described as spirit beings as part of the past in a creation myth. So they believe in spirit beings that existed once upon a time, played a huge role in terraforming the earth to be what it is today. So the Temokel was the name of the great supernatural entity who they believe kept the world order. The creator deity of the world was called Kenos or Quenos. Many of their tales recount shaman-like characters such as Zon. I'm not sure what this means here. Maybe that's I'm pronouncing that terribly wrong because it's of an alphabet that isn't English. Which has supernatural capabilities. For example, he can control the weather. And the Wangina were said to be weather controllers, and they could make it rain. And these people also worship entities that looks like this, like clowns, and could make it rain and control the weather and had supernatural abilities. So So they have these ceremonies, these initiation ceremonies, which are the passage into adulthood. Okay, it's called the Hain. Young males are called to a dark hut where they would be attacked by spirits, who were people dressed as supernatural beings. The children were taught to believe in and fear these beings at childhood and were threatened by them in case they misbehaved. The task in this rite of passage was to unmask the spirits. When the boys saw that the spirits were human, they were told a story of world creation related to the sun and the moon. In a related story, they were told that in the past, women used to be disguised as spirits to control men. When the men discovered the masquerade, they in turn would threaten women as spirits. According to the men, the women never learnt that the masks' males were not truly spirits, but the males found out in the initiation rite. That's an odd story. The contemporary ceremonies used this interplay in somewhat of a joking way, so they had a sense of humour, let's say, which is pertinent to the point of we're talking about sacred clowns and jesters in the Pueblo tradition that look very similar to this. So, after the first day, the related ceremonies and rituals took place, the males showed their strength in front of the women by fighting the spirits, who were other males, but the women supposedly did not know this. In some theatrical fights, each spirit was played with traditional actions, words, and gestures so that everyone could identify it. The best spirit actors from previous Hains were called again to impersonate spirits in later Hains. Apart from these dramatic reenactments of mythic events, the Hain involved tests for young males for courage, resourcefulness, resisting temptation, resisting pain, and overcoming fear. It's also included prolonged instructional courses to train the young men in the tasks for which they would be responsible. Before European encounter, the various rites of the Hain lasted a very long time, perhaps even a year on occasion. It would end with the last fight against the worst spirit. Usually, Hains were started when there was enough food. For example, a whale was washed up on the coast. A time when the Selk'nam from all bands used to gather together in one place in male and female camps. Spirits sometimes went to female encampments to scare them, as well as moving around and acting out in ways that related to their characters. The last Hain was held in one of the missions in early 20th century and was photographed by the missionary Martin Gasinde. So what we are looking at in these images are images of this last rite, this last ritual that was performed by this tribe which no longer exists. And it says outright, these are the representations of evil spirits. So we can go deeper into the Selk'nam mythology to understand just what these spirits are supposed to be exactly. So, the Selk'nam and Halsh mythology, the cosmos is divided into 4 Sho'on or infinite skies, which represent the 4 cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. And it's a seasonal worship culture, basically. The religion of the Selk'nam people tends to be described as polytheistic, mainly because of the existence of various characters which are usually considered deities. However, it is necessary to clarify that according to the beliefs of the Selk'nam people, only Temokel is recognized as a god. Other characters are identified rather as mythological ancestors than gods. On the other hand, it's also necessary to indicate that the characteristics attributed to these mythological ancestors are typical of those beings whom we call gods. So in the West, we would call them gods. They have, we would call them demigods, let's say. They have these characteristics which are definitely godlike from a European perspective. Let's think of the Greek gods and their many skills and talents. Hercules is a good example of a demigod, So they had their own pantheon of characters with these godlike attributes. Heroes of old, men of renown, let's call them, if we want to get all Genesis about this. Because of this, it's possible to consider that the religion of the Selk'nam people was rather henotheistic. So this is the belief that they have a supreme god, but they also believe other gods exist. And thus we have a superior being, similar to the god of the Abrahamic religions, which corresponds to Temokel. Mythological gods are ancestors called Hawan, of which the first inhabitant of Earth was Kenos, a creator and terraforming god, sent by Temokel. And finally, Zalpen and her subordinates, Sorts, who are the inhabitants of the underworld, which are represented by men in the Hain ceremony. So these entities here, which we see them dressing as, with the red and white polka dots, these here, these are the sorts, and these are the demonic underlings of the goddess of the underworld called Zalpen. And I can't find any images of Zalpen. Here's one artistic rendition of what she may have looked like, based on the stuff that the Selk'nam people wear. So this one in the middle here, with the cone, the black cone, someone's made a artistic rendition of it here, as though it's the goddess. And notice the black cone with the white dots going up is very similar to a clown hat, isn't it, that we wear, a party hat. But it turns out there is a band who has named themselves Zalpen, and they are a heavily satanic themed band. So here's all the stuff they wear: death face, ghost face, the white face paint, channeling the same entities. What they're doing here is absolutely no different than what this tribe is doing here by wearing this makeup. It's to channel the entity in some way, and to embody it and be like it and be that entity in their ceremonies and rituals. It's an invocation of what they proclaim to be their ancestor spirits, including the demons. So interesting. They have these representations, and it all links back to demon gods, and demons subordinates of Zalpen and her sorts. The goddess of the underworld. So they have their own pantheon of gods. We'll call it just for ease, really. We'll call it a pantheon. But they have the grand creator god, and they have lesser gods called the Hawan just below them. So these are the Nephilim, I would say. Or even angels. They could be considered fallen angels, or something similar. And then Kenos was the first inhabitant of Earth, so the first man. This is also could be their equivalent of Adam. I think this may be the first of the Nephilim, or the first of the angels, because it says they terraformed the earth, shaped the earth. So it says here, this person was sent by God, Kenos, to the dome, from the dome to the earth, the celestial dome to the earth, with the mission to organize it and create the mythological ancestors who would shape the earth. And I believe this is Lucifer sending down perhaps Azazel to create Nephilim, or mythological ancestors, who would utterly corrupt the earth. I think that's the Christian interpretation of this story here. So they have a similar story, just from their point of view, that the angels and Lucifer were God and not God himself. So these were primitive people who were lied to by Lucifer, basically, into believing that they were the gods. And as a result, now they venerate the demon offspring of Nephilim, which are now described as the sorts, the subordinate sorts of Zalpen, the goddess of the underworld. Who the goddess of the underworld is supposed to be an analog of, you could hazard guesses, but I know the fallen angels were essentially, they are all described as male, but perhaps in a sense they were actually sexless in a way. They didn't have gender as we know it, because they were shape-shifting beings, and they could represent as female. But it could be an extremely high-ranking Nephilim female who died and was placed as a spirit of the underworld. I don't really know. But I just find it interesting that these entities are literal representations of beings from the underworld. So we call them demons today. And we know that demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. So these are representations of what the Nephilim looked like in spirit form, and possibly what they looked like in physical form, if we consider that the Wandjina were represented like this when they were in physical form too. So there we go. That's basically a summary of the Selk'nam tribe and their beliefs in these entities. You get modern, exhibitions about these people quite a lot, and you can see the size of some of these helmets they would wear. They're quite large here, quite trippy looking. quite satanic looking with the red and black colors as well. You know, the colors of red and black, and these look very similar to maybe the hat that the Pope wears as well from the front. You know, which can go into the whole dog and fish worship tribe stuff as well, and the miters, but just interesting. I thought I'd share that with you guys. You know, other representations here, other drawings. People have made models of these things, as you can see. And, you know, it's quite a psychedelic, trippy looking entity. It's quite scary, isn't it, really, when you think about it? Quite terrifying. And these photos are literally the last remnants, the last ritual of this culture, and it's gone. They don't do it anymore. And these photos are all we've got to visualize what they were doing, you know. Interesting, very interesting. And, you know, these red and white polka dot patterns, a common theme and pattern used in clown clothing. I don't think it's an accident. I think it was stolen from these tribes and incorporated into the modern image of a clown by nefarious actors who brought these demonic visions to the West. So now people who dress like clowns or use clown-like patterns and polka dots are also evoking the spirits in the very same way these people were. The only difference is these people knew what they were doing. We don't. We're ignorant. We don't think of a clown as anything nefarious. We think of it as a funny honk-honk juggling act for the purpose of laughter and entertaining children. We're that deceived about what it is, and we don't even blink an eye. But these people knew what they were doing. They were dressing like demons, specifically to act like them for their initiation rites to bring young men into adulthood. And here they are, painted on the side of caves in Australia and venerated today still. And they had the same skills, you know, they could make it rain. Just like the Solomonari of Romanian culture I mentioned, the wizard basically, which had white skin and red hair and wore white robes, could also make it rain and thunder by riding on a dragon and using dark magic, taught to them in schools run by the devil specifically. You know? All these stories connect, and it's all basically stylizations of the same story, the same entities. There's no difference, really, just cultural differences. And everyone wants to think their own culture is special, their own culture is unique and worthy of it's not. It's nothing new under the sun. They're all the same. They're all talking about the same things. They all had the same experiences in the ancient past. And we are witnessing modern echoes of this ancient occurrence, you know. And I hate to be so all-encompassing about things. I know how dismissive it sounds. I do, you know. I know how ridiculous it sounds from a perspective of somebody who's within all of this culture, you know. It's kind of like I'm removing diversity from the world in that respective belief. But the truth is, we all have a shared history. We all experience the same thing. We all just have our own way of coping with it because it was traumatic as hell. It was horrific. He had monsters like this with giant gaping mouths just eating people and destroying people and picking people up and just throwing them around or tearing them in half for fun, you know, because they could. What would you do if you saw a giant? Well, what could you do? You can't run away from the damn thing. You know, it's one stride for him is 20 for you. It's terrifying when you think about it, you know, and it's just been so shrouded in mystery and occultism, but that's the past, you know. Anyway, I've ranted on a bit there. I'm going to go back into the chat, see what you guys are saying. Let me just quickly switch the screen back over to a little... there we go. I've got a little slideshow for while I'm talking and while I'm checking out this this group chat and just seeing what you guys have been saying. But yeah, if you see on the screen now, it's random images from a folder I've been creating, which is just compiling all the images I've collected of these tribes that all venerate the same beings in their own ways, you know. They're all representing the same characters and the same demonic entities. So enjoy that while I speak to you guys, and I'm just going to bring the chat up on my screen so I can see what's going on. There we go. We've got 34 people in right now. That's great. Being a bit slow for me. I'm just going to close some tabs. Hopefully it speeds up the internet a little bit more for me. Makes it a bit clearer. The chat's finally caught up. There we go. That should be a little bit less demanding on my CPU as well. It's screaming at me right now, these fans. It's quite hot today as well, so that doesn't help at all. So we got good afternoon, everyone. Sounds good, says Drunk Wedding Photographer. Thanks for being here. Video was laggy, but the sound's good. Okay. Thomas Erickson says timing. I'm guessing he's happy he made it to the stream. But thanks for being here. Bushwhacking History in Buffalo says audio 5x5. I'm not sure what that means, but I'm guessing that means good. I've got Creepy here. Hi, I love your work, says a girl. Thank you. I'm glad you like the videos. Thanks for being here. Black and red stripes, just like Harley Quinn from DC Universe. Interesting. LVK says, I had Telegram. I couldn't figure out how to use it. You know what? I struggle how to use Telegram as well. I have no idea. I'm winging it. But if you guys are interested and have Telegram, I have started a group called Understanding Conspiracy with my logo. Find it and join it. I don't know how to run it. I don't know how to use it. I have no rules or anything set up. But if you want to get in there, maybe we can all get in there and have a continuous conversation going eventually and create a little talking community on Telegram. I'm a member of a couple of groups, private groups I was personally invited to, and they're quite fun, quite interesting, and they all share stuff on there continuously about all things conspiracy related, and it's fascinating to be a part of that group. But if you want to be a part of Understanding Conspiracies Telegram, search for it and find it. I think it's public. I think it's there for anyone to join. I could be wrong. I am awful with technology and using this thing, so if someone wants to teach me, I'm all ears as well. Drunk Wedding Photographer says it's tricky, especially if your phone or internet can't handle the heavy bandwidth of the app. I use it on desktop instead. Interesting. Hello from Hollis, Maine, USA. LVK, all over the world, there are headdresses of feathers, grass, fur, or straw, probably to imitate the weird hair of the Nephilim. Yes, and also to represent their etheric nature now, the nature of being more sound-like beings. Jack Skellington just joined. Thanks for being here. Is this tribe located at the tip of South America? It is. Yes. Chile and Argentina. Hello from Maine, USA, says Melanie. Thanks for being here. Shill Killer 11 says hello. Hello, Mac. Nightmare Fuel. Kanga Kong, great to see you. Thanks for being here. I'm sorry you didn't sleep too well. Kissing goblins and in bed with a goblin, says Thalmus Kilo. I'm not sure what he's on about, but fair enough. Mary Smith and Truth says, wow, hey Paul and you're the Pablo, awesome. Yeah, thanks for being here, Mary. Humble Stranger, an extinct tribe in Argentina. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Humble Stranger's been having weird dreams. Plus smoke and pollen not helping my aspect. I'm sorry to hear that, Humble Stranger. Cone heads are real and not from France. I assume that you could also say they represent the hats worn by the Nephilim who had elongated skulls that could hold them quite easily. It may just be that. But I do think there's something said to represent the head being elongated like a cone in these outfits, maybe trying to mimic serpentine-like features again. But I don't know. It's all speculation. No surprise that it was at the southernmost tip of Africa, as close to Antarctica as possible. Antarctica is their prison. Yeah, it was South America, not Africa, but yes, I understand what you're saying there. Larry, thanks for being here. Thanks for your email, by the way. I did read it. I've just not had the chance to respond about the Hatman vision from your son. But I'll send you an email back soon. But it is interesting. It's fascinating. The coincidence there is just quite alarming, really, isn't it? But thanks for sharing that. LVK, why do people want to imitate evil entities? They'll always turn on humans eventually. Yeah. It reminds me of a poisonous sea creature. Yeah. I do think, I say it's serpents mainly that they're trying to imitate with these costumes, but I also think it's avian bird-like creatures. I also believe it might be sea-like creatures as well. There's a lot of psychedelic stuff going on in the sea. I think it's also I was watching today about someone discussing the last days before the flood and the times of Noah. The Nephilim had kind of dwindled their numbers and killed each other off in brutal, bloody battles as a punishment for the fallen angels. They had to watch their children murder each other in the most horrific way. But once all the giants had died, the first wave Nephilim, let's say, were all dead. There was a period of time where it's kind of like the angels that weren't punished and locked in chains decided to mess around with the genetics of everything. And they started making hybrid animals and human animal hybrids. So for the last 120 years, 200 years, while Noah was, becoming the very last human being alive, there was a period of time where humans were messing with the genetics of everything. All animals, all creatures, all flesh became corrupted by the last moment. There was no flesh left that was resembling humanity at all, or even the original creation of animals that God created by their kinds. The book of Jasher goes into it in quite a lot of detail. The book of Jubilees touches on it as well. The book of Enoch mentions it too. And obviously, the Bible itself mentions it in Genesis that all flesh was corrupted. And someone pointed out that that includes fish and sea life. And the only things that could survive a great deluge are fish and sea life. And he was explaining that if you look at some of the psychedelic creatures at the bottom of the deepest depths of the ocean, which we can't even explore, 90% of it we haven't got a clue about, there are some horrific monsters down there. And he's speculating, are these the leftover remnants and the creations that were created during this time of genetic manipulation? Maybe, I don't know, but it's a fascinating thought. But it is very possible that a lot of these Nephilim entities, or the Elio or Nephil, the lesser Nephilim, which were created after the giants were murdered, they also became the disembodied spirits at the end. They corrupted their nefesh, their soul, their spirit, and they remain on Earth when dead, just like their creators, the Nephilim giants before them. So maybe a lot of these demon spirits have these psychedelic patterns, just like marine life. Not just bird life or serpent life, but marine life too, like fish, There's some real psychedelic things out there in the ocean. Really trippy patterned, skin-coloured things, Just like serpents can be very colourful and trippy, just like birds can be extremely colourful and psychedelic and trippy. I mean, have you seen a peacock, just to name one. I think a lot of these features were present in the Nephilim and the corrupted genetic people as well. So yeah, interesting on the sea life stuff there. Humble Stranger says, we all have our challenges now, but nothing like what the antediluvian people experienced. Nightmare world, absolutely. Yeah, what they went through was just the worst. I'm glad that will I hope we never see that again in our lifetime, but it does say in the end it'll be like it was in the days of Noah, so hopefully not, but you never know. Although we are messing with the genetics now, CRISPR technology, we are playing with genetic engineering, so that's what they were doing. Are we that far away? I don't know. It's scary to think about. Hello, I hope I haven't missed too much, says Not Really Here. You've missed the presentation. I got straight into it today. It's only a short one. You can always go back and watch it later. But I will be reading from my book soon, some of my recent writings and scribbles. But although I may put it out there to you guys of what chapter specifically you want me to read. I'm just catching up with the chat quickly now, but I think I'm almost there. Moo Mimi, thanks for being here. Cassidy, thanks for being here. Exactly, and that's what they're doing underground right now. Yep. The Shriners are weird. Absolutely, they are. I'm not able to find the Telegram. I don't think it's public. Could you check the settings again, and I'll drop a link in the description afterwards. I'm very interested in joining. Yes, Jeremiah, I will try and figure out how to do that. I haven't got a clue how to make it public or do whatever with it, to be honest. I do not know. Telegram is hard to use. It took me a while to figure it out. My wife is reminding me here in the chat as well, something else I want to bring up with you guys. And I've got a decent number of people in here right now, so this is good that I can get everyone hearing it. I want to start a new funny part to this live stream we do every week. I would like to do a segment called Clowns in the Wild, or Clowns Found in the Wild. And I want people to send me images or anything at all they find in their day-to-day life, walking about in shops or down high streets, where they find a clown-like entity in the wild. So that could be a person who's dressed in just a ridiculous way, almost like a clown, almost like a particular spirit is influencing them to be that way. It could be a product on a shelf or anything at all, but I would like people who follow me to start gathering first-hand evidence in the streets of clowns found in the wild, and send me some stuff. I'm going to be keeping my eyes out as well. Yesterday we were driving, me and my wife, and we drove past this individual who was walking down a country road, not in the middle of nowhere, but it's a long, empty road to be walking down alone. And he was wearing the most ridiculous yellow and black checkered clothing, themed all the way down. And we both looked, we just laughed, and we thought, like, what? Look at that clown, is all we could think. So if you guys see anything like that at all, I'll try and get the dash cam footage of what I saw. Please share it with me. Send me an email to understandingconspiracy@gmail.com. And if you think it's worthy of clowns found in the wild, I will share it with everybody on the next stream. Hopefully we can keep this going as something fun. A bit of fun we can have. We're going hunting for clowns in the wild. Do not attack anybody or accost anybody for these things, okay? They're all human at the end of the day. I do think it could be a bit of fun. So there we go. Just throwing that out there. Cassidy says, great info, thank you. I've been trying to figure the clowns out. Your channel was recommended me today. Not a coincidence. Thank you for your work. Brilliant, Cassidy. Well, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. We have a little community going, so I'm glad you could be a part of it. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll be making videos every week. 2 a week. One every Wednesday, and this live show every Sunday. And I also make every Friday a personal video for patrons only. I just released the third video on there, but it's the second in a series I'm going to do for patrons only, called Tips for Truthers. I gave a little snippet of that as well. So if you guys are interested, you could always go to join it to Patreon. It's $5 a month, and you get access to all the premium content on there. Like I said, you get access to an extra video every Friday on there as well if you want a bit more. It's not, information necessarily like I'm trying to hide from people. It's more personal, dealing in conspiracy type of talks, the psychology stuff, the day-to-day dealing with this kind of thing. I share a lot of that on there, which I do on this channel as well, but an extra video is there every week for people who want to support me. I want to give back to those people. Shill Killer, have you ever considered doing a fictional work based in the pre-flood world? Sort of like that, an extended chapter. Sort of like an extended version of that chapter you wrote. Not right now. Right now I am considering nothing but writing this book and getting it finished. Hopefully in a year is my target. I've almost finished section 1 now. I'm kind of halfway through chapter 9. And then I'll have chapter 10, which discusses demons and where they came from. And then section 1 is done. And that's the history. All the history to back up everything I'm going to claim about the clowns is there in section 1. There's 3 sections to this book, I think. Maybe 4 or 5. I don't know. I can't remember now. You'll see in a minute when I bring it up on the screen. But that might be interesting. Once this book is done and published and out the way, maybe I will consider writing a fiction instead, based solely on living in the antediluvian world. Just from the point of view of an everyman. Just what it's like to live day to day in that reality, and just be a fly on the wall, quite literally, because of the size of some of these giants going around, and being like an insect among them, of just what it is to witness that experience. Maybe that would be a fun fictional thing, but I don't know if I'm a fictional writer. I'm an artist, I'm a creative mind, maybe I can do it, but it would be a new endeavor for me. Right now I'm just focusing on presenting this theory in written form. But yeah, maybe I would consider writing a fictional book in the future. Thanks for the suggestion and the support. I appreciate that. Sebastian, thanks for being here. He says, hi, everyone. My wife says, what a wonderful, funny idea your wife had. I will send you an email with nice information. Thank you. Clowns in the wild, lol. We love this channel. Thanks for making content. Thanks for being with me. I appreciate it. At the Speed of Shadow, thanks for being here. Finally got here for the live one. Thanks, Paul. Like I said, I've already done the presentation, and I'm about to do a quick reading of my book. Now, what I was going to do is I'll just quickly swap the screen over here so you guys can see. Let me just load the book first. It does take a little while. The bigger the book gets, the longer it takes to start up on Google Docs. But yeah, maybe I'll just ask you guys which chapter you want me to read. Maybe that's the best way of doing this. Like I said, I am halfway through writing a chapter on the aftermath of the flood, and there's a lot to cover, you know, from the initial, how did the Nephilim come back after the flood and all the theories around that, and then the Tower of Babel will need to be discussed and the separations of all the people, and obviously Nimrod probably worth mentioning, but then I don't know if that's relevant or if it's even worth talking about for the sake of this book. And then I need to talk about the sons of Noah creating nations, you know, and then I need to discuss about the reclaiming of the promised land that was promised to Abram, and then the fighting of all the giants there and the culling of all the giants and driving them out from the lands of Canaan. There's a lot to cover in the aftermath of the flood, and then of course the rest of human history after the flood. But I don't know how much of that I need to really fill out or what is pertinent. I mean, like I said, I've written practically a book already just about ancient history. So give me a second. Let me just, yeah, it's on page 19 of 53 and loading here. It's taken a while to load my book, so give me a second, and I'll share with you guys once it has loaded. But there's just I've covered so much already. I've written 35 or 35,000 words or something. And I've almost finished, like I said, this first section, which is just history. It's just nothing but history and theories and speculation and quotes from the Bible and quotes from other researchers who have been thinking about this for ages, just about what happened, you know, what created these giants and how did it get this way. And I'll be glad when it's done, because I want to get into the clowns, you know, I want to get into the clowns. But it's just taking so long because there's just so much to cover, especially the flood. I mean, the flood itself is like 16 pages worth of just going through every continent and showing how the flood is so prevalent. I went on forever with that one, and I'm not saying I've wasted time with it because it just seems relevant. All of it is relevant. It's hard to know what to cut out. I'm hoping people who have never even thought about the biblical perspective before will learn just why it's relevant from this opening section. I want them to see that there's perspectives within the Christian interpretation which are useful and relevant and extremely pertinent to our world today and what we live in. And I think a lot of people who have never thought about it seriously have these straw man preconceptions of what Christians believe, and they don't consider any value at all in biblical history. They consider it just ridiculously stupid scribbles of desert-dwelling idiots, you know, and that's the simple brain-dead understanding of the situation. And I'm hoping the clowns will hook them in to read the book, and the opening chapters on ancient history will clue them in that there's a lot more to biblical history than they may have previously ever conceived. It's very complex and very detailed, and it's actually explains a lot. It explains pretty much why we have demons and why the world is the way it is today and where we came from in a sense. And yeah, so I can't leave this stuff out, but then I'm wondering, like, how much can I get away with writing before people get bored before even getting to the clown subject? I have all these thoughts going in my head about it. You know, is 30,000 words too much before people get to read about the clowns? I don't know. Anyway, the book seems to have loaded now, so let me just bring this up and share with you guys the screen. Obviously, like I said, you've had my little slideshow going there, I hope. Yeah, so I'm going to switch the screen here. Perfect, and then I'm going to bring up the book. So like I said, if you look at the far left of the screen here, the book's laid out for you. Okay, section 1, and then chapter 1, introduction. Chapter 2, the meaning of a name. Chapter 3, Man's Jealousy and Pride. Chapter 4, Heavenly Jealousy and Pride. Chapter 5, Jealousy and Pride Incarnate, the Nephilim. Chapter 6 is called Kings and Rulers. I think we may have read that one, I'm not sure. Chapter 7 is Utter Corruption. I think we may have read that one too. Chapter 8 is The Flood, with all its subsequent subheading. So the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Americas, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, and a summary. That's 16 pages worth. That's a lot to read. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to read all of that tonight. But and then chapter 9, which I'm working on now, is The Aftermath. So I have a couple of subheadings already. I have an introduction here. And then I'm going through the second incursion theory and the many perspectives that could be viewed as true, and how it does not contradict the Bible, even though a lot of people say it does. But then there's also the, I might have got that wrong, but there's the lineage of Shem I've written here. I think I might have got, is it Shem through Shem's line or is it Ham's line? Sorry, my brain's melted through all this writing. I'll have to do more research into it. But obviously, through the lines of one of the sons of Noah, basically, giants did appear. And it's possibly through their wives that those genetics were brought through into the antediluvian age. So there's the theory that there was a second incursion, where angels came down and mated with women again after the flood. And there's also theories that Nephilim simply survived the flood and carried on breeding after that. And then there's the other theory, which implies nothing survived at all, and the Nephilim only appeared because of the genetic corruption of the wives of the sons of Noah. And also the corruption within Noah's sons as well might possibly have been there. Because Noah was the only one that was actually perfect in his generations and didn't succumb to any of this. So there's many theories as to how the Nephilim reappeared, but what we do know for a fact is they reappeared. So it's not a salvation issue to know how, and maybe it's not 100% necessary to know how, but the fact is they did appear, and Deuteronomy and Numbers goes into in great detail about the battles fought between these giants and the tribes of Israel to reclaim the Holy Land, you know. So that's where I'm up to so far, and once we get to chapter 10, I can finally get into demons. So it's up to you guys where you want me to read. So section 1, pick a chapter, have a vote now. You can see the names of them all down here. I'll leave it on screen for you. And yeah, you just have a quick chat in the chat and vote now. I'm gonna have a drink of water while you do that. And I'll give a reading to you guys. Maybe not all of it, if it's long, a passage or two from it. Right. So check the chat here. What have we got? Shield Killer, I just caught a good clown in the wild. I'm sending it to you, Paul. Yeah, understanding conspiracy at gmail.com. Well, Hercules, Pericles, etc. Nephilim. Yes, Hercules was a quintessential half human, half angel. He was a Nephilim, yes. Are Nephilim genes in small and varying amounts present in modern day people? I think it is likely. It's likely that may be the case, yes. Or maybe not. Hard to say. Right, guys, so you're not going to see anything from there. I'm going to bring it up on the screen again. Select a chapter to read. What do you want? Do you want something from Man's Jealousy and Pride about Cain and his lineage, or something from Utter Corruption about just how terrible the world was, or something from The Flood? If you don't choose, I'm going to choose in like 60 seconds, and I'll just read something that I've written maybe recently for you guys. What's going on here in The Flood? Oh god, there's loads of stuff here. Yeah, this one goes on for a while. Yeah, some of these flood stories were absolutely just trippy, just bizarre. Some people But these tribes have the strangest stories to tell, honestly, and their perspective and viewpoints of the world are so strange. Right, we can go back to the chat. Chapter 14. I'm not quite there yet, unfortunately. So there's nothing in chapter 14 to read. 13. Okay, never mind. Like I said, guys, I've only finished section 1 here. Section 2 will be what did they look like, and that will go into all the descriptions we have of the Nephilim. But for now, all I've got is up to chapter 10. Well, I don't even have chapter 10. Up to chapter 9 is all I've got currently for you guys to choose from to read. Unfortunately. But I've done the best I can in 2 months. I think a full look into the backstory of the flood and any other background info is a must. Yeah. The normies who will eventually pick up the masterpiece will thank you later. Oh, well, a masterpiece, I don't know, but the flood is a very, very pertinent topic because it explains how a lot of these creatures were not around anymore. Because people question that, why aren't they still here? Man's jealousy and pride. Corruption. Okay. So someone says man's jealousy and pride. Help, how do I change name? Says. I don't think we read that one. I think we read about the heavenly jealousy and pride in the last stream, actually. Yeah, so maybe it might be worth going through some of the man's jealousy and pride. It's basically just about how humanity also corrupted themselves along with the fallen angels, in a sense, and a kind of like a partnership was created between the two. Excuse me. Right. Yeah, so this one is a contentious theory about the creation of more people than Adam and Eve in the initial creation. It's a contrarian viewpoint, so maybe it might be worth just sharing this with you guys, because I think a lot of people don't really think about this concept when they think of the beginning. And now I'm not saying this is 100% true. It's definitely a theory Gary Wayne has purported, and I'm inclined to believe him. It seems like it makes a lot of sense of a lot of things, and it can be squared quite easily by the language that was used in Genesis. So I think I'll read this to you guys just so we can keep the stream going along. So while I'm reading this to you, I may as well just put a slideshow on. It's a bit more interesting than just a bunch of words on the screen. So if I put the slideshow on there. All right, so these should just fade through the background as I'm talking, clown-related stuff, and I'm just going to share with you chapter 3. I might read it all, I might cut out halfway, I don't know, but here we go. So, chapter 3, man's jealousy and pride. I'll have a drink of water first. When one considers the creation of Nephilim, it's hard not to wonder why these violent monsters were created to begin with. Something unprecedented must have happened to convince angels to rebel against the creator of the universe, right? And what would convince earthly mortals to do something they knew would anger a creator they had no doubt existed? There are two acts of rebellion that need to be explored separately before we come full circle to creation of the Nephilim. These are the sin of mankind and the sin of heavenly hosts. The evil of man, the rebellion of angels, and the tyrannical terror of the Nephilim offspring was a trifecta of corruption and destruction that made the pre-flood world a truly horrific time to be alive. Before we get to that point in the timeline, let us first examine each rebellion, beginning with mankind. What I'm about to say by mainstream Christian standards is a contrarian theory. But as you can tell from the title of this book, I don't intend to toe the mainstream churchianity line of biblical interpretation. The following concept has been explained in depth by the researcher Gary Wayne, who introduced me to this understanding. When God created Adam and Eve, God had also created a multitude of other people on day 6 to fill the whole earth. The first verse we find showing this is in Genesis 1:26 through 27. Then God said, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over the creatures that move on the ground." So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground." Note that God said he created man and woman together, plural. Then they were told to go forth and multiply. They were then given an order to subdue the earth and be caretakers of a sort, a task not possible unless there were many of them to cover all the earth. In the account of the creation of Adam in Genesis 2, he was created and moved to a separate garden in a specific geographical location called Eden. Now the Lord God had planted a garden in the east in Eden, and there he put the man he had formed. The Lord took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. No such order was given to Adam to multiply or subdue the whole earth. He was instead asked to look after a specific garden alone. Soon after, Adam was asked to help name the animals, an honour not even the angels were bestowed. It was only after Adam was finished naming all the animals, and failing to find a suitable helper from among them, did God create Eve. The man gave names to all the livestock and to the birds, to the heavens, and to every beast of the field, but for Adam there was not found a helper fit for him. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon man, and while he slept, took one of his ribs and closed up its place with flesh. And the rib that the Lord God had taken from man, he had made into a woman, and brought her to the man. And the man said, This at last is bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She will be called woman, because she was taken out of man." It appears through the use of language in these verses that Adam was simply another man, singular, separate from all other men and women, plural, on the earth. Adam was put aside in the Garden of Eden for a purpose not yet apparent in the early parts of the biblical account. It is apparent, however, that Adam had a close relationship with God, so we can assume he would have been taught many things pertaining to creation. This divine information will become extremely important in understanding why we even have secret societies and an overarching conspiracy at all. For now, what we can know for certain is that the specific lineage of Adam was of extreme importance to God, as his lineage is followed meticulously throughout the Old Testament, all the way to Noah. Noah was the last righteous man before the flood that reset creation. We also know that it was through this lineage, after the flood, that Jesus Christ, the Saviour of all human life on earth, would come from. Why would it have mattered to document the lineage of Adam to Noah so meticulously? I personally believe that Wayne is correct in his theory that God created many more men and women who lived alongside Adam's children. It's the only satisfactory answer to explain this concept. We know Adam was special in the eyes of God, but he wasn't infallible. He disobeyed God, and was expelled from the Garden of Eden into the wider world as a punishment, and more specifically, as a means to protect him from eating of the tree of life, as we read in Genesis 3. And the Lord God said, The man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand and take from the tree of life, and eat, and live forever. So the Lord God banished him from the garden, to work the ground from which he had been taken. It's even more interesting when you consider that Adam was banished to work the ground from which he had been taken, implying he was originally just another man from the world before being moved into Eden. Now, it is never stated in Genesis just how long Adam and Eve were in the garden before they were deceived by the serpent and banished into exile. What we can guess from a cursory reading of Genesis 4:14 through 17 is that it was long enough for nations of a sort to be built in the world by other people of day 6. If we jump ahead a short while after Adam and Eve's exile, just after the murder of Abel, Cain was banished into a world with other humans who he feared would kill him. Then we read of Cain creating a full life for himself within cities built by his hand. Behold, you have driven me today away from the ground, and from your face I shall be hidden. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. Then the Lord said to him, Not so. If anyone kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord put a mark on Cain, lest any who found him should attack him. Then Cain went away from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. When he built a city, he called the name of the city after his son, Enoch. So Cain was now essentially invincible due to some distinguishing mark that made it very clear killing him would cause a fate worse than death. Then Cain is cast out into a world of hostile people who would recognize the mark and leave him alone. It's then said that Cain settled in a place called Nod, which was already established with a name, where he procreated with his wife. This short passage raises so many questions from which people... This short passage raises so many questions. From which people did Cain take a wife from, if Adam and Eve were the only progenitors of all mankind? Who built this place called Nod in which he travelled to? And who exactly populated this city Cain built, dedicated to his son Enoch, within the time span of one generation? I understand that they had significantly longer lifespans than humans do now, but not enough time would have passed to create enough humans to build and populate a city if it was only Adam and Eve and their sons and daughters having sex with each other vigorously. It can only make sense if we understand that other humans were already on Earth, following a God-given mandate to procreate alongside the lineage of Adam and have dominion over the animals and the land. Things become a lot more palatable for unbelievers and even Christians when one considers the men and women of day 6 into the biblical story. As I mentioned at the start of this chapter, this concept was brought forward to my own consciousness by the diligent works of Gary Wayne, who wrote the following on the matter while ruminating over Genesis 5. The passage appears to be bouncing back and forth between the creations of two distinct races, between a singular and a plural creation. Similarly, Genesis 4 notes Cain proceeded to build numerous cities, as did Enoch. For whom were these cities built? In the early years of Adamic epoch, we are led to believe by standard Christian orthodoxy that only a few souls existed, only a few hundred, if they had populated vigorously from both branches. Building numerous cities only makes sense if day 6 people already existed in great numbers and were subjugated by Cain and his descendants. As you can probably tell, I am heavily inclined to believe Wayne's interpretation to be correct. Cain mixed with these first peoples, and he and his progeny mixed with them for at least 8 generations before the earth was reset. The children and subsequent lineage of Cain and those day 6 people he ruled over were known to be no better than their founder and leader. With each subsequent generation, they became more corrupt by the teachings of a prideful and jealous Cain, and of course the spurious teachings of fallen watchers. Along with his noted descendants, Enoch and Lamech, full physical, religious, and political control over the dominion of man was established. Flavius Josephus, a 1st century Jewish historian, explains how the lineage of Cain was a truly corrupt and evil line of succession, with each new generation more corrupt than the last. Quote, "He did not accept his punishment in order to amendment, but to increase his wickedness. For he only aimed to procure everything that was for his own bodily pleasure. Though it obliged him to be injurious to his neighbours, he augmented his household substance with much wealth, by rapine and violence. He excited his acquaintance to procure pleasure and spoils by robbery, and became a great leader of men into wickedness. He also introduced a change in that a way of simplicity wherein men lived before, and was the author of measures and weights, and whereas they lived innocently and generously, while they knew nothing of such arts, he changed the world into cunning craftiness. Nay, even while Adam was alive, it came to pass that the posterity of Cain became exceedingly wicked, every one successively dying, one after another, more wicked than the former. They were intolerable in war, and vehement in robberies, and if any one was slow to murder people, yet was he bold in his profligate behaviour, in acting unjustly and doing injuries for gain." End quote. What we can begin to conclude from this examination of earthly pride and corruption is that Adam walked with God in the Garden of Eden, and was taught many mysteries and secrets about the nature of reality, and he was being prepared to become the ruler over the earth. This knowledge was no doubt passed down to his 3 sons, Abel, Cain, and Seth. This knowledge gave whoever possessed it the ability to control everything. As we read in the passage written by Josephus, Cain used this to his own selfish advantages in rebellion of a God that rejected him and cursed him. He introduced measures and weights to the hunter-gatherer peoples of day 6, with every intention of corrupting them, creating a world that can be quantified and owned, materialist in nature, thus changing the minds of men forever. This simple act of introducing measurement meant that people became possessive and protective, leading to fighting and bloodshed over land and property, no doubt. Cain came to the hunter-gatherers of day 6 with information they could not have conceived on their own, no doubt using this sacred knowledge to build numerous cities and rule over the peoples of day 6 with ease. He no doubt used the multiple peoples within the lands as slave labour to build these megalithic monuments. Cain would have been considered a god who could not be killed, with godly knowledge and power. Cain appeared to have doubled down on his sin rather than ask for forgiveness or turn from his evil ways. This attitude was passed down to everyone within his lineage, and they each sought to further their forefathers' agenda of total domination and corruption of God's creation. The first generational child of Cain, Enoch, not to be confused with the ecclesiastical Enoch of the Book of Enoch, who was the 7th generation from Adam, is often associated with being someone who walked with the Nephilim as a feared serpent cult leader. Enoch occulted the knowledge of the sacred sciences into mystery schools and documented the mysteries into hieroglyphs. One spurious science Enoch could be attributed to was the corruption of astronomy, the use of cycles of the stars for the use of timekeeping and harvesting. Instead, this sacred science was corrupted into astrology, a deliberate worshipping of the stars, sun and the moon as idols themselves. Enoch created the zodiac, as we know it, along with also inventing sacrificial rituals that followed the sun into new zodiac signs. This was done purposefully, with the intention to lead as many people away from the one true God of all things, just as Cain wanted. Astrology made sure that people turned to the stars and the false gods, angels, attached to them for answers instead. Horoscopes seem trivial to us today, but the prediction of one's fate through consulting the stars was a very serious business in the antediluvian epoch. Enoch preserved all of the knowledge he had into numerous hieroglyphic scripts in which he placed within 9 vaults. With the use of his newly invented symbol language, Enoch ensured his corrupt religion could be translated into the new world after the flood. Lamech and his children in the final generation continued Enoch's work and preserved the corrupted knowledge of the 7 sacred sciences onto 2 pillars of brass and marble, with meticulous instructions on what the 7 sacred sciences are and where to find the 9 vaults of Enoch. All this was done in preparation, ensuring this perverted knowledge would survive the coming flood and make its way to a new people to continue the agenda for the total corruption of God's creation. According to Freemason craft legends, all 4 children of Lamech were credited, to varying degrees, with beginning the craft in the world. Tubal-Cain was the artificer and smith, Jabal for Freemasonry and geometry, Jubal for music, and Nama for weaving. Nama was even said to have married a Nephilim named Shamdon, producing a giant known as Asmodeus. By the time these preparations were being made, no human flesh was left uncorrupted from the mutation and sin, besides Noah. This means the lineage of Seth eventually gave way to the same corruption as Cain's progeny, and many were also likely slaughtered for their opposition to the trifecta of corruption. In the Book of Giants, it said that over 400,000 of the righteous were slaughtered due to the giants alone, though those numbers could be greatly under-exaggerated when you consider the sacrifice and murder taking place by humans too. We must remember that the sins of men were only 1/3 of the contributing factors that led to the Great Flood. Angels also suffered from great jealousy and pride. Okay, stopping there. There's a lot more that needs to be mentioned in that, probably in my second draft. I do need to mention about mankind corrupting all flesh with genetic engineering. I've missed that out. That will get added towards the end of that chapter in a later date. Like I said, right now I'm just getting the bulk of it down. But that's the first draft of chapter 3, Man's Jealousy and Pride. There's probably a lot that could be mentioned, a lot I've missed out, but I'm trying to be as succinct as possible. This is a Cliff Notes version of biblical history. Entire 400-page books have been written about some of the things I've just touched upon alone there. But that's what I've got so far. What do you guys think? I'm going to go to the chat, see what you guys are thinking. Hopefully you enjoyed that little read there. I'm going to have a drink of water. My throat's getting pretty dry. So we've been going for an hour and a half, so just catch up with you guys for a little bit and then we'll call it a night. From my angle, it looks like no one said anything in the chat, which is good, because that means you were listening. Let me just have a look. Talking about Sasquatch. And Bigfoot, yep. Gather round, kids, says Humble Stranger. Talk about people just disappearing from reality, walking through a random thin section of the veil. Someone said, I sent you an email with a recommendation for some materials that may interest you. I don't speak English very well, but I hope it will be of great help. Thank you very much. I will read into that tonight after this stream. Thanks for sharing some information with me. Could Cain be the one who built some of the Tartarian buildings? Interesting. Perhaps. Again, it's not pertinent to this book. I'm not going to do a full section on Tartarian history or the millennial reign possibility and all that sort of stuff. Once I've given the biblical history of the antediluvian past and a short passage on the aftermath, which created demons, then I'm going to get into clowns specifically. But maybe I could write a whole book on the whole Tartarian stuff. But I do need to try and stay hyper-focused in this book from now on, I think. Who knows, maybe a lot of what I've written in these opening chapters may not make it to the final edit. I don't know. But the way I'm going, this book is going to end up 500 pages long. Which might be a bit daunting for most people who just want to read about clowns, you know. But interesting concept though. Drunk wedding photographer. Maybe Cain was the one. Maybe. Who knows? Remember? Sorry, I just hit the mic there. Remember, there are two Enochs in the Bible. One from the line of Cain and one from the line of Seth. Enoch of Seth's line was righteous. Yeah, I did mention that. Why I know in that passage. Yeah, but you're right. Enoch was the first generational son of Cain. Enoch the bad, we'll call him. Enoch the evil. Enoch the good, the righteous, was the 7th generation from Seth. So just after the times of Jared. So it's actually quite a lot of time had passed between the two. But I do think there was a crossover where they lived together at the same time. That's true. Why Dino? Perfectly understandable, great reading. That's what I'm going for. I hope it's clear. Very well written. I hope it reaches people who wouldn't otherwise go to the Bible for historical information. Yeah. See, the thing is, I'm not a historian. You know, I'm just compiling the works of other people and saying it in my own way, with throwing my own random speculations and interpretations in here and there. But again, I can't go on forever about every minor detail. I have to be hyper selective about the key moments and points that people need to know about. Just so the opening section of this book stays below maybe 70 pages, because right now I'm on like 55 and I've got a whole chapter and a half to write. So I don't want it to be too much, you know. I do want to get onto the clown stuff. But so far I think I've been pretty clear. Again, it needs a few minor tweaks here and there in editing. There's some minor issues with punctuation I've noticed, and missing words here and there. I was reading it, adding the words as I was reading. It's first draft stuff, you know. It's all first draft stuff, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I was listening, amazing stuff, says at Speed of Shadow. Thanks, Humble Stranger, for asking us to gather round. I was busy yammering on about Bigfoot. Very well written. I hope it reaches people, yeah. Yes and yes. Yeah, at the Speed of Shadow, obviously, it was him who sent me the information for last week's stream about the Guahanas region and the people who dwell there and the totem poles they make on the archipelago of islands of the Guahanas. They're just off the west coast of Canada, and those First Nations people, you know. And you find that the totem pole represents many gods, and he sent me some great stuff about that, which made that video. So thank you again there. I appreciate it. If anyone does ever want to send me anything, just ask me my email and I'll give you a shipping address you can send stuff to. If you want to share, I am open to that. Doesn't have to be much. You know, I'm just saying any information, or maybe like I said, it was a leaflet I got sent to me which was full of great stuff. Anything at all that you guys might find interesting or think I might be interested in, you can reach out to me and send things to me personally. Morgan J says, I don't get to make it too often for a live, but catch up when I can. I always appreciate anything you read from your book, and the more I hear you read from it, the more I want to read the finished copy, no matter how many pages long it is. Oh, that's nice of you to say. Thank you very much, Morgan. I appreciate that. Your work will serve as an encyclopedia. It's more than a book, Paul. Very important to get it printed and bound, and also passed on to generations, so this knowledge you are gathering is not lost. Yeah, I suppose. Well, you know, I do hope it helps a lot of people. That's the aim, you know. But like I said, the first time author, I am trying to be hyper selective about what needs to be said, to lay the proper foundation for this theory. Because if the foundation is weak, the theory will collapse and fall apart. Now, I think there's a lot of, like I said, evidence out there that makes it obvious that what I'm saying has some truth to it, but I'm making a wild claim. An extraordinary claim requires extraordinary evidence, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm glad you guys think it's good. I do appreciate that. Right, guys, so any last questions or any topics you want me to discuss or give my opinion on, bring it up now. I'm not going to go for much longer. We're almost at the 2-hour mark. I have 20 minutes left. So in the chat, leave any messages you want me to discuss or anything you want to share. And then I'll start winding this show down and we can call it a night. As you can hear, my voice is slowly going. In the meantime, quickly check the email that people may have sent to me. Yeah, the book's going good. I'm hoping I've drunk wedding photographer will understand this, but I've got to put quite a bit of my time into editing photos for a wedding I did a couple of weeks ago. So I'm finding less time to write this particular week, and I have another wedding in a month's time, which will take up my time as well, and then another one after that. But I do find snippets of periods where I get to write a few lines here and there. The recent chapter I'm doing, chapter 9, I've actually I spent one night writing loads of stuff down, and then the very next day I rewrote everything from scratch because I just did not like the way it flowed. It just sounded like gibberish. So I spent all of last night, a good 4 hours, fully rewriting about 4 to 5 pages worth of stuff. And it sounds a lot better now, I think, but it needs a lot of work. But when I find the time, I do what I can. Looks like HA has become a patron. Thank you very much. I will just say the minimum to get access to any videos or content on my Patreon is $5. You won't get access to anything for the $1, $3 donation option. I would like to get rid of those options, but as people are signed up to them, I can't. But you don't get access to anything on the Patreon for the $1, $3 donations. If that's all you can afford, then obviously that's what it's for. It's there as an option. It's capped at 5 people max on each one. But again, guys, just in case you didn't realize or know, if you want access to the Patreon content, which is book snippets and extra videos and other stuff as well, random stuff, book cover ideas are on there already that people have sent me and worked hard on and things like that. Extracurricular stuff. But again, it's the minimum spend is $5. Anything below that, you won't get access to the posts. But I do have an email here as well, which are video recommendations, channel recommendations, and book recommendations. Very interesting. Right, thanks for that, David. I will read that tonight. Let's just check the chat. I don't care how many pages it is, I'm hooked. Brilliant. I spell your name wrong. Right, guys. So the chat's winding down now. I think I'm going to call it a night. I don't have anything extra to share with you today. I will be back with another video in the midweek. I might do a video that succinctly summarizes this Tierra del Fuego tribe and the Selk'nam people. I may go into the Hopi a little bit more. Like I said, I would like to start another Clowns in the Wild series. So if you guys do see any people out there dressed like clowns in a serious fashion, not in a it's their job type of way, but in a they think they look good walking down the street type of way, see if you can just send me an image and we'll share it with people. I'll blank out faces and stuff. I'm not here to purposely name and shame individuals. I just want to point out that the spirit of these things manifests all the time in our day and age through people. And it can also just be random images on billboards or in adverts or toys on shelves, or just anything at all. If you see a clown in the wild, send it to me. I want to see it. I want to share it with you guys. I think it could be a fun little segment we can do. Again, if you guys want to support the book and you like what you read today, the GoFundMe is still active. You can find the links down below. Anything that goes towards that is a huge help to me and my family while doing this. Obviously, time writing this book is time I'm not working on the business, so it's definitely helpful to supplement that cost there. And obviously, if you donate £100 or more, so that's $125 or more, you will get a free signed copy of the book once it's published, sent to you personally by myself. I will contact you closer to the time for shipping information, but I have a list of people who have donated $100 or more, £100 or more, and like I said, I'm ready to send you guys that copy once I have printed it. I will send it to my house, a big stack of them. Maybe so far I think I've got about 13 or more, maybe 10 or more. I'll order all 10 to my house, and I'll sign them all with a little note, personal message each, and then I will ship them all out to everybody who donated that much money. And that's my pre-order promise. Like I said, it might be a year or so yet before that happens, but I've been overwhelmed with support that's already been there, but it's still open for you guys to send any support there. Any amounts that you donate, if it's under that amount, if you donate anything at all, you will get a special thanks in the book, unless you want to be anonymous. There is an anonymous option, but if you're happy to have your name visible, you will go in the book as a special thank you, either in the front or in the back. Your name will be in the book. So that is a promise as well for any donation amount. Like I said, the $100 or more will get you the £100 or more. I have to make that clear. £100 is about $125. So remember that. But if you donate that or more, you get a free signed copy of the book. It's the least I could do. And that's what the money you donate will go towards paying for as well, a portion of that. So there's that as well. Excellent stuff. Thanks again for putting in all this hard work. Really fascinating subject. Yep. Your work is always fascinating. Thank you. The symbolism is everywhere. Yeah, absolutely it is. I hope you like the new format where I've got this little slideshow playing in the background instead. It's something a bit different. I'm going to keep adding to this. Just so obviously so you guys can see my face. I am here, and I guess we'll call it a night, guys. Like I said, links down below for the Patreon and GoFundMe. I'm back on Wednesday with another video, and on Friday there'll be another episode of Tips for Truthers for the patrons as well, the paying patrons. It is very hot in England today. I think it's something like 20 degrees Celsius right now. It's quite late, but it's been reaching about 30 degrees Celsius in England, and I am too pale to cope with that. Honestly, I am not built for the heat. So I'm a sweaty mess, so maybe it's best I do share this little... Look at that Shriner there. Look at these Shriners. They don't look so fun anymore when they're all having the horrible meal around some disgusting looking table. But yeah, anyway, guys, I'm going to call it a night there. Thanks for being here. Thanks everyone in the chat for taking part. I hope you enjoyed the book reading. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And I will, like I said, I'll be back next Sunday for another live show as well. So if I don't see you in the middle of the week, I will see you then. Thanks for listening, guys. And as always, God bless.